What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about some things that you need to know for your first season of tackle football. So we're going to talk about some little tips, some hacks that you guys can use, and some drills that you guys can do to help you guys improve for your first season. So guys, we're going to be talking about 5 things that you need to know for your first season of tackle. So the first one, and this has to do with the gear, right? So a lot of schools and a lot of programs provide really great gear when it comes to pads and when it comes to a helmet. Those are kind of the 2 popular ones, right? When it comes to like girdle, knee pads, those are all kind of really the same. I don't think you need to necessarily worry too much about that. But obviously people are concerned with the pads and with the helmet because of, a lot of the information that's out there about head injuries, a lot of the information that's out there about just football being, more so dangerous than other sports because we play a very violent game. We're tackling, we're hitting constantly. So the pads and the helmet that you wear are important. Now, I also think it's important because of like comfortability, right? So like, I know me personally, that's what I was most concerned with. I didn't play my first season of tackle until I got to high school. I wish I would have played sooner, obviously, because there's a learning curve when you go from flag football into tackle football, obviously. But it's totally fine if you play a little bit later. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I definitely think it's important to play at least in like 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, or maybe even sooner than that in some cases, right? But if you were getting ready for your first season, a lot of the times the gear that you get is awful. Like my freshman year of high school, I went to like a private school, right? And mainly because it was a good football school and I got a scholarship there. But like the gear was awful. Like the pads that I got were freaking super uncomfortable, really bulky. It just didn't feel right. You know what I mean? So my best piece of advice to you guys is if you can afford it, gear is expensive. And I'm not knocking anybody that can't afford that because it is absolutely insane in terms of expensivity or just pricing, if you will. Get your own pads, get your own helmet because you want to be comfortable, especially if you guys are making that transition for the first time playing tackle football. So like getting a pair of pads that you're comfortable with, getting a helmet that is comfortable, that feels light, doesn't feel like you're wearing one of these buckets, and also for safety reasons. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of times, especially programs that maybe don't have the best funding, programs that maybe don't like necessarily put a major emphasis on football, you might get some hand-me-down like shut concussion bucket helmet, and it's just like, bro, like that's not the safest type of helmet that you could wear. If that's what you get and you can't afford to get your own gear, totally fine. Not knocking you. You could still be a great football player. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be a great football player. It just makes the transition easier. So like helmets that I could recommend, like, a Speed Flex, like a Rydell Speed Flex, a Schutt F7. Vices has a good helmet. Light helmets are great. And there are a couple other brands. A good place to look to see what helmets are like the safest, if you will. Like Virginia Tech every single year will run a study on like the safest football helmets and they'll give them a ranking. So that's a place that you could go. Gonna be expensive. The safest ones are generally the more expensive ones, which is unfortunate, but that's just the way it ultimately is. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you how it is. Now, in terms of pads, I like a brand called 2-in-1 shoulder pads, which is where you put a vest on and then like a carbon fiber or polyester. Get the polyester. The carbon fiber is way too expensive. But put the polyester over the pads and it's crazy range of motion, especially if you're a skill guy. I understand most of my audience is quarterbacks and receivers, so like you need to have range of motion to make a catch. You need to have range of motion to be able to throw. So having pads that are on the little bit lighter side of things, or not necessarily lighter, but just more mobility. You should be able to touch your hands over the top of your head. That's a good test of mobility. So that's a good brand. X-Tech is a good brand, little pricey. You can get those custom made to yourself. And then a good brand that's not super pricey is Battle. Like Battle just came out with pads this last offseason. Great pads. I always used to recommend Zenith pads, but Zenith, I believe, went out of business or they got bought by somebody. So like I haven't seen their pads all that often. Battle is like pretty much an exact clone of Zenith pads, maybe even a little bit better. So I recommend those 3 brands. Battle's a little bit more on the affordable side of things. So get your own gear because you never know the gear that you might get. You don't want to be uncomfortable, okay? Now, second thing I would say, and this kind of has to do with gear too as well, is train with the gear on. Generally, when people play tackle football for the first time and they put the pads on, the first time that they wear the pads is August 1st, when you guys are getting into pads for the first time, whether that's on your tackle team, high school team, or whatever. You don't want to be that guy that's like, damn, I feel slow. Like, man, this is heavy gear. Like, I don't feel like myself. And then you have to get used to that, where when you get to summer football, you should be focused on competing and earning a starting job rather than just getting used to the gear and getting used to the pads. So months in advance, dude, even now, like it's November, right? Like even now, if you're starting to train, dude, what harm is it if you wear a helmet and you wear pads when you train? Now, like I said, some of you may not be able to afford top of the line gear, and that's totally fine, right? Especially if it's your first season and you're going to grow out of the stuff. So I get that if you don't want to drop $1,000 on pads and a helmet. But what I will say is just to get comfortable with the weight of everything, go get a cheap pair of Dick's Sporting Goods, you guys, where you get a cheap helmet, like you're not getting hit, obviously, and get a cheap pair of pads, especially if you're like a receiver or something like that, just to get used to the gear. I recommend conditioning with that stuff on and doing drill work where you are getting some type of like contact in a sense. So like if you're a quarterback, the biggest difference from flag to tackle is now you're getting freaking hit when you throw that ball, right? And obviously throwing with the gear on. So maybe you go out there, you're with your dad, you're with your brother, you're with some friends, have one of them invest in like one of those like blocking pads that are not expensive at all, and just like, you know, throw and have them hit you while you throw. You're a receiver, catch the ball and have them hit you, condition with the stuff on so you could get used to what that type of difference would be. Because I remember my biggest difference was like, man, I did this. I remember I trained from like probably March all the way until August before my freshman year of football with full gear on, full pads, getting contact, doing all that. But I remember the learning curve when I first started. It's like, bro, I can't throw a spiral. Like I got this thing on my shoulder. You get used to it after a while. You're running and you're like, God, I feel slow. Like, so you just have to do those reps so it's not a shock when you get to summer football the first time. So just make sure you take my advice on that, okay? Please, you guys. Even if you got to rent pads and a helmet or borrow it from a friend, like just do that so it's not the first time you put pads on when you were getting there in August, because it is a kind of a steep learning curve at first. You can absolutely get used to it and you will get used to it, you guys. Now, next thing I would say, focus on getting a little bit bigger. All right, that was a big focus of my game, or I guess my off season when I finished my 8th grade season and was going into tackle football for the first time. Is like me and my dad, we were like, hey Grant, like listen, like you're very skinny. You got to put on some weight because where you're going to play football, it was in this league called the Trinity League. Some of you guys might be familiar with that, but it's arguably the most competitive league in high school football across the board. That's where like Mater Dei is in, St. John Bosco's in that. All those big private schools in Southern California are in this league, right? So I was playing against some freaking murderers out there. You know what I mean? You got some 8th graders who are almost 16 years old. Some of them are 16. They're 6'2". They're 270, 80 pounds. Like, I'm going to have to take hits from those guys. So my big focus was like, okay, I want to try to put on like 10, 15 pounds in the off season. So I started hitting it hard in the gym, right? 8th grade. Well, and again, if you're on the younger side of things, I'm not saying you got to go lift heavy. Like, let's say you're a 4th grader getting ready for your 5th grade first year of tackle. Like, you're obviously not going to go to the gym and lift heavy, but like doing something that's going to get you stronger, going to put on more muscle mass, will help you absorb hits a little bit better. So if you're a young kid, just doing body weight exercises is totally fine. Every night, maybe crank out like, 30, 40, 50 push-ups, right? Do some air squats, do some jump squats, do some lunges. Body weight stuff will not hurt you at all. It's not going to stunt your growth. Lifting won't stunt your growth. That's a myth. I don't know who invented that, but you're not going to stunt your growth if you lift. It's just ridiculous. And even if you want to get in the gym a little bit and do very, very light weight, that also can help you out, especially if you're at a young age. But if you're like 7th, 8th grade, you should be hitting the weights. That's just my opinion, right? Because you need to put on some size. That's the biggest difference, because like generally kids who play tackle football, they put them in tackle football because they're big kids. You know what I mean? Like D-line, O-line. Like if my son is very tall and weighs a lot, I'm going to put him in football because I think that's probably the best sport to suit him. So you want to be able to take those hits, especially if you're not on the bigger side of things, or deliver those hits if you're on the defensive side of the ball. So focus on getting a little bit bigger in the offseason by hitting the weights, and I think that will totally help you out. Now, before we get into the 4th and 5th thing that you guys need to do, fellas, if you're a QB or wide receiver watching this, or the parent of a quarterback or wide receiver watching this, and you would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, we are traveling out to 15 different cities across the entire country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. So guys, if you want to attend, go to that very first link in the description below. That's where you can find all the information. We're going to be coming out to San Francisco, California, Orlando, Florida, Phoenix, Arizona, Columbia, South Carolina, Seattle, Washington, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Nashville, Tennessee, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Austin, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Denver, Colorado, Columbus, Ohio, Boston, Massachusetts, Salt Lake City, Utah, and finishing it off in Los Angeles, California. So guys, want to attend, very first link in that description below. We'd absolutely love to see you there. So our camp's a little bit different. We focus a lot on development. So we don't take 200, 300, 150 kids. We keep things very, very small so we can work with each athlete on an individual individual basis. So you screw up, we're going to take the time to coach you up, tell you what you did wrong. It's not one of those camps where it's like go, go, go as fast as you can. It's not what we do. So with that being said, we limit spots. Our San Francisco camp only has about 3 spots left, and then it is sold out, and we have to start turning people away. Orlando, we only have maybe about 8 spots left. Phoenix, I would say like anywhere from 12 to 15. So guys, if you want to sign up, make sure you take advantage of the fact that we have open spots, because all of our camps will start to sell out, and we will not have any more spots available. So if you guys plan on attending, guys, make sure you take advantage of that now. Very first link in that description below. Okay, so now let's get to point number 4. When it comes to your first season in tackle, you need to make sure also that you show up in shape. Okay, you got to be in shape, because one thing I'll say about like flag football, some programs might do a good job of this. I've seen this before, but the conditioning is generally a little bit easier, and it's also a little bit easier because you're probably not wearing full gear. You're not wearing helmet and pads. Even if you guys do hard conditioning, it's going to be much harder when you're wearing a helmet and pads. You got to show up in shape. So I know one of the things that I did that I was probably like, and I don't say this to brag, but maybe it's like a humble brag, but like I felt like every single team that I played on in the history of my football career, I was always in the best shape from a cardio perspective because I was consistent. When it comes down to cardio, especially football cardio, it's all about consistency. 3 times a week, I was running. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'd go run bleachers. So I went to this local high school by where I lived, and I would run sprints up the bleachers. I probably would do like 20 sprints, right? And then like on Sundays, I would go run sprints with my brother, and we would just run like 40s, maybe 100-yard sprints, like stuff like that. But I was very consistent throughout the entire year. There was never a time throughout the year where I was taking time off with that. I was always in shape no matter what time of the year it was, because I wanted to be able to go into summer football and not have to worry about the conditioning and not have to worry about getting in shape throughout the season. I wanted to get there and I wanted to compete. So I was always in shape, and I was very lucky to have that information given to me when I was a younger player, and that's part of the reason why I'm telling you this now. Tackle football conditioning is very hard. Some of you guys might go through hell week, where it's just a week of conditioning and it's hot. No matter where you live, it's hot in August, right? So you have to understand that you got to be in shape. Be consistent. 2 to 3 times a week, you need to be doing something. Now, don't mistake me for saying conditioning by you're going to go out to a track and you're going to go run 8 miles. Don't do that, because that's not football conditioning. Football conditioning is very stop and go. You're constantly sprinting, you get to relax, and then you get to go again. That's how football's played, right? You're an offensive lineman, set, go, you block as hard as you can, exert all that effort, you get to play, you get to relax for a little bit, and then you go do it again. So running sprints is the best form of football conditioning. 2 to 3 times a week, you should be doing something in some type of sprinting conditioning, okay? So now, point number 5, and this is a big one, especially for you younger guys, you need to have thick skin. So what do I mean by thick skin? You guys probably heard this before. Some of you guys obviously probably know what it means, but you need to be able to handle criticism, and you need to be able to handle hard coaching. Okay, so the thing is in tackle football, like a lot of people are nervous at times because they're kind of like, they hear different stories, maybe they see clips on social media of coaches being like pretty hard on guys, right? And that's part of like football culture. And I'm not saying that that needs to change. I think it's great that coaches are hard on players and they're, fiery about what they do. They're passionate about what they do and they care about what they do. I think there's a wrong way to do it. I think like if, you're putting kids down and you're cussing at them, especially young kids, and I think that's bad for the game. But you're going to get some coaches who are hard on you and who like to yell. And if you can't handle that, you're not cut out for football. So like you need to understand going in, it's nothing that you can't handle, by the way. It's not like it's like this, it's not like you're in the military where it's like they're freaking trying to break you down and they're screaming in your face. It's not like that. But you might get some coaches who are a little bit fired up and a little bit fiery, and they might get in your face a little bit because they want you to do well. So you just need to understand going in that when a coach isn't yelling at you, when a coach isn't getting on you, that's when you need to worry, because that means he doesn't care. When a coach is on you all the time, hard on you, like that's when you should be, okay, he cares about me, he wants me to get better. Have that thick type of skin. Don't be that guy that crumbles under pressure as soon as a coach starts to get loud, because that's just, football's not cut out for you if that's the attitude that you're going to have. Because wait till you get to college. Then mom and dad ain't around. You know what I mean? So coaches could care less if they hurt your feelings, or couldn't care less if they hurt your feelings. They will cuss at you, they will put you down, they will berate you in meetings because their job is on the line, right? Like a youth coach, if he goes 1-9, he ain't gonna get fired. College coach, you lose 5 in a row, you're getting fired. And like the amount of money that you could make as a successful college football coach, like, so they're gonna get on you. So you need to get used to that. You need to understand that type of stuff, okay? Just make sure that you have thick skin. All right? Now, fellas, that does it for this video. I hope this is able to help, especially those of you guys who may be a little anxious, nervous about going into your first year of tackle football. You will be totally fine. I just wanted to discuss these 5 things to give you some type of insight on the things that you could do to be better prepared, okay? So, guys, hope this is able to help. Like I said, if you have questions, comments, don't hesitate. Post those in the comment section below. I read and respond to every single comment, so I appreciate it always, and then we'll see you guys next time.